The Roman emperor was in theory almost divine. He was the princeps, the first citizen, the pater patriae, father of the fatherland. His power seemed absolute, his safety paramount, guarded by the finest soldiers in the world. And yet, of the nearly 70 emperors who ruled Rome until the fall of the West, a large share met their end through assassination, suicide, or in battle. This act, the murder of the head of state, was not a rare aberration in Roman politics. It was a recurring, almost ritualistic feature of the imperial system. It followed a grim and predictable pattern, a deadly formula born from the inherent contradiction of the empire, a system that vested supreme power in a single, mortal, and ultimately vulnerable man. The greatest threat to an emperor wasn't a barbarian horde at the frontier. It was the dagger concealed in a senator's toga, the loyalty of his personal guards, or the ambition of his own family. Roman conspiracies were rarely the work of a lone fanatic. They were intricate webs woven by distinct groups, each with its own motivations. First, the Senate. These were the old aristocrats, men who dreamed of a restored republic and resented their loss of power. For them, assassination was a political statement, an act of tyrannicide. The murder of Julius Caesar was their template. A large group of senators striking in the open, claiming to be liberators, but they fatally miscalculated. They killed the man, but they could not kill the idea of one-man rule that the Roman people had come to accept. Far more effective and far more common were the plots born within the gilded cage of the palace itself. The emperor's bodyguards, the Praetorian Guard, were the ultimate kingmakers and king-breakers. They were close enough to strike at any time, and their motivations were often more personal than political. A perceived slight, a lack of pay, or the simple, terrifying realization that their paranoid emperor might turn on them next. The assassination of Caligula was a Praetorian affair, led by the tribune Cassius Chaerea, born of his escalating madness and the humiliation he inflicted on his guards. And finally, there was the family. In the suffocating intimacy of the imperial court, wives, sons, and relatives schemed for power and survival. The line of succession was a bloody affair, and an emperor who seemed weak or who favored the wrong heir was a dead man walking. The location of the deed was as critical as the plotters themselves. The Senate House, as Caesar learned, was an arena of high symbolism. To strike an emperor, there was to strike at the heart of Roman politics, but it was also a room full of witnesses and potential loyalists. The imperial palace offered the greatest security for the emperor, but also the greatest opportunity for betrayal. Here, a conspiracy relied on absolute trust among a small group of insiders. A chamberlain to grant access, a guard to look the other way, a food taster to be bribed or bypassed. The Emperor Domitian was killed in his own bedroom, cornered by palace staff and guards who had finally had enough of his reign of terror. The historian Suetonius describes the grim aftermath of that particular plot.
As soon as the murder was committed, the conspirators displayed the body publicly, but none showed any sign of rejoicing, only fear and consternation.
For all the planning, the moment of execution was often a descent into chaos. More plots failed than ever succeeded. The Pisonian Conspiracy against Nero in 65 AD was a textbook example. It was a massive plot involving senators and soldiers, all united against Nero's tyranny. But the conspiracy's size was its undoing. It was a web of whispers, and one of those whispers reached the wrong ears. A single freedman named Milicus, learning of the plot from his master, revealed it to Nero's court. Mass arrests followed. Under torture, the plotters turned on each other, naming names and settling old scores. The philosopher Seneca, a man who had once been Nero's tutor, was implicated and forced to take his own life. Even a successful assassination rarely achieved its stated goals. Killing the emperor did not kill the system. Instead, it created a power vacuum, a moment of extreme danger for the entire state. After Caesar's death, Rome plunged into more than a decade of brutal civil war, which ended with an emperor even more powerful than the one the senators had killed. The aftermath of Commodus's murder led to the infamous Year of the Five Emperors. as rival generals tore the empire apart. Perhaps, most cynically, after the Praetorians murdered the disciplined Emperor Pertinax, they literally auctioned off the Roman Empire to the highest bidder from the gates of their camp. The historian Tacitus, living through the turmoil after Nero's fall, perfectly captured this violent cycle.
An emperor murdered, 4 civil wars, foreign wars more numerous and often both at once, Rome itself consumed by fire, the venerable capital burned by its own citizens.
The formula for Roman regicide was therefore a tragic one. It was a script of ambition, betrayal, and violence, replayed across the centuries. It revealed that an emperor's greatest weakness was his humanity, and the system's greatest flaw was its reliance on a single, fallible man. The assassinations were not so much a cure for the diseases of the empire as they were a symptom of them. They did not restore the republic or bring lasting stability. They simply reset the board, clearing the way for the next player in Rome's deadly game of thrones until the game itself finally came to an end. So what do you think? Was assassination an unavoidable flaw in Rome's system, or could any emperor have truly ruled in safety? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next episode. A special thanks to my Patreon members for making videos like this possible. Your support means everything.